the success of any enterprise are its people. But molding and nurturing the most important resource in an organization is far from easy, and the 4th HR Leadership Conclave saw some of the most established professionals in the field come together to discuss key areas of function and challenges for better human resources. This year, the focus was creating optimized organizations.
As a business guy, I would like to place my 2 cents on the table. I don't know whether that will qualify for a keynote address or not, but I'll try my best. Few things that I'm facing, and I think most of you would also be facing on a daily basis, is there has been a complete paradigm shift from capital investment to intellectual capital, right? The old paradigms of differentiation, which could be location, which could be technology, etc., they all have crumbled down. It is boiling down to, do I have the right people? The economies of scale has been replaced by economics of network, right? That is a most fundamental change that is happening. So it doesn't matter how well you can produce at what low cost. They will come and tell you, it is expected of you to be in business. But can you possibly engage with your customers, shareholders, employees, partners, franchisees, and reach out to them on the most optimal way and together make your organization successful and meaningful?
When we talk of optimized organization, the first name that comes to mind is the CFO. Because he's the guy who's cutting cost, cutting everything. And I was sitting the other day in our own organization and we were saying, okay, we got to cut down these costs. And you know, there were various items listed there and one item was training. I said, training is a cost. I thought training was an investment. And I think these are some points that we should all look at and say, and you know, I was so pleased to read in today's Economic Times front page that even in this downturn, people are not cutting down on training cost. And I think that's very, very important, because when people look at cost and investment, there's a very thin defining line, but those investments get your engine fired up to actually take you to the next level.
The global economic turbulence has unleashed a wave of unprecedented challenges for the world's economic order. Organizations can no longer take the liberty to underutilize their own capabilities. While this is one side of the coin, the other side of the coin, on the contrary, holds a great promise.
The economic environment presents opportunity. With the help of your organizational capabilities, are you able to develop the correct set of business strategies such that these capabilities which you have are able to create the right plans for you to be able to explore and create the maximum value for you?
We need to manage a huge diversity of talent inside the organization. How do we manage it? I quickly present my way forward is 3 C's. 1 C standing for competitiveness, 1 C standing for managing culture, and a 3rd C standing for managing capability in the organization.
Dipendra, your thoughts on optimization?
Definitely what has happened, I feel, is that HR has actually gone away from people function, if you ask me. Too much is highlighted about HR automation, HR metrics, HR measurables, dashboards, and business partner. I mean, HR, I think, has gone from one end of the spectrum to the other end of the spectrum, almost representing the management. HR should actually be concentrating on building an organization and not the company. We definitely, I feel that HR should create more entrepreneurs rather than managers. So in simple terms, what I would like to conclude at this stage is that I think, as Vasant rightly said, or Richard said in the morning, back to basics, it's people. HR definitely has to connect back with people.
3 or 4 things that has really been bothering me, and I think this discussion I would like to bring forth here. Number 1, this again, brass tack, is farming of talent important? The classical debate, farming of talent versus hunting of talent. But over the last 36 months, over the last 3 to 4 years, we've been having this burst of bust and boom. What do? Do you farm your talent or do you hunt for new talent? Number 2, HR and with the businesses would make values for the company. And the third one, and this is again for something like a financial services, We don't sell a product. We are in the business of trust. We are the business of delivering trust. How do we ensure this consistency of delivering trust to either the internal employee or to the customer?
Whichever organization has got a happy set of people, they also have a happy set of customers, because the people reflect the way they are treated in the organization to the customers with whom they deal with. And what one needs to do in an organization is to create a happy workforce. When people get up in the morning and want to come and join that and come and work for that organization, it is very, very important that people realize that managements realize that when you deal with people, they are the main fulcrum of the organization. They drive the organization, they take organization to great heights, and it's important that we keep this workforce motivated. We need to show empathy to them.
From an HR perspective, I think it's very, very critical that you trust an employee. You start with the premise of trusting an employee and then give the employee the space to operate. And actually, if you give the space and the trust, post trust on the employee, he or she can do wonders for you.
Retaining skilled workforce is arguably one of the biggest challenges any organization faces. At the same time, it is essential to optimize the cost of the same workforce. So how does the management get the right set of employees at the time of need within a suitable cost and at the right place? Organizations need to get a lot of things right in order to reap the benefits from workforce optimization.
Workforce is one of the single biggest costs in business today. And increasingly, the businessman, the business leader asks, how can we do the same thing in a cheaper, better, more efficient manner? I think as I look into the future, in the future, business cycles are shortening. There is a lot of volatility in business, in the sense that a successful period doesn't stay for long. A lot of business challenges come up. I think overall, as business cycles shorten, we are going to see a very different workforce in the future. So the workforce may not be based in the office as we see it today. It could be in the office of an outsourced service provider. It could be in the home of the work person. I also feel that in the future, the work person may not be bound by one employer. He could be working for 1, 2 or 3 employers.
What Vikram mentioned is very true, that the composition of the workforce is changing rapidly. Earlier, one could say that the workforce was probably completely controllable by the organization. As of now, the workforce's physical presence itself is not necessary. The norms of engaging people at work have changed dramatically. So I think this subject has become pretty complex. Add to that the various dimensions in which we incur costs. Some costs are incurred right now, some are incurred over a period of time, and some are fixed and some are variable. And it becomes a pretty complex subject for a CFO to manage workforce costs. The second part, I would say that it's a very dynamic challenge, because if I look at workforce as an asset and I try to optimize the costs, I find that this is one asset which keeps changing. It's a live asset. As Mr. Narayanamurthy used to say, that our most valuable asset comes in at 9 o'clock and goes home at 6 o'clock. So it's a mobile asset. It's a dynamic, live, changing asset. So managing that asset is again a challenge which is very different.
Milind, your CFO's perspective is going to be constantly bought in to kind of give a different point of view. This is one of the few assets that in fact has an opinion on how it should be valued and talked about. So we'll definitely come back to you. Vinay, your thoughts on workforce cost?
I think we are at a very interesting stage of the way the world is developing. And if I make one statement, which is that we are managing knowledge workers basis the ways that we manage manufacturing sector, which is on time. we still pay for time. We still manage by time. We still ask people to put in their cards against the docket in the morning and see who has come, how many hours, so on and so forth.
The values that we are trying to inculcate in our managers, A is social awareness, which means they will be responsible towards society. Their decisions will not be based on profit motive alone. They would be ethical in their decisions, socially conscious, think about the environment, the impact their decision will have in society. That's one. They will conserve resources because, as we see, all natural resources are depleting. And of course, they will be efficient. That is expected of a manager, that a manager is expected to improve the functioning of an organization. So these, the combination of these three.
With increase in customer choice, the manner in which firms operate is experiencing a significant shift. Companies are beginning to realize the primordial position of employees in the competitive landscape. Will this shift result in forcing companies to build a value proposition for the workforce?
Let me give you two perspectives on employee value proposition. The first being, today the landscape is changing on what employers and employees are seeking. One size does not fit all. You need to have customized strategies, customized processes for different sections of your workforce. Now in this context, now in the entire, what I would say, jigsaw puzzle of an employee value proposition, it constitutes of the values of the organization, the culture of the organization, the reward process, how work happens in the organization, and end of the day, in every transaction, in every behavior, the employer and the employee has to see value in that transaction. This is one perspective. The second perspective from an employee value proposition is the fact that to whom do you really need to give that value? You need to give that value to the employees, to your shareholders, to your customers, to your vendors, everybody who's associated with the organization.
Often a contra view is raised around the issue of building employee value proposition. Is this yet another HR fad? Or are we unduly complicating a fairly simplistic thing of talent attraction and retention?
Firstly, I think it's not an HR fad, it's something very sustainable. But yes, I do believe that we are complicating a simple issue. Because in real life, we have so many examples where we create value propositions. We say human being or our human resources are our most productive asset. And really, what is EVP? It's just a preventive maintenance program, which we have done for our machines all the while. If you look at our families, the EVP is really a whole employment experience. And all of us know when we were dating or our initial years of marriage, what we did to keep the romance alive. Simple things, you spoke to your wife more often, you brought her a bouquet of flowers occasionally, and stuff like that. So if you just kind of take that to a next level and multiply it by 400 or 4,000, I think that's what EVP is all about. But I think the main challenge here is leadership itself. Because I think EVP falls in the domain of, in HR terms, they call it organizational behavior. But organizations don't behave. It's the top 50, 100 leaders that behave. And if they do those 3 or 4 things day in, day out with rigor, believe me, I think the organization will change overnight.
As far as any chief people officer or a director HR is concerned in any large or medium or even a small sized corporate is concerned, this is an area which is directly linked at the time when you are filling in the staffing in your organization. Anybody who walks in for an interview and between the interview or whatever interaction takes place between the candidate and the interviewer, I think one of the key concerns of the candidate, apart from the compensation, is what is the benefit which you offer over and above the compensation. And a key component of that is the employee benefit program which the organization has.
The last discussion at the conclave was focused on identifying the key trends in human resource management. Prominent thinkers in the field from across the globe shared their views.
When I talk to managers and business leaders across the country, the question they keep asking is, how do I manage these various groups? How do I take it with these young people that want different things than myself? How do I deal with different cultures in our workplace? How do we manage that? We just completed a recent study in Canada, and there's been some interesting findings that individual changing jobs with an increasing frequency, that's not going to go away. That's going to continue to increase, and I know that's a challenge here in terms of turnover and so on. And that HR departments need to address those continually changing jobs with creating career paths within the organization that will be able to retain people.
A few things that we see, I think, is increasingly important for HR to master to help their organization in this way. One is the concept of workforce planning, and I think people tend to think about that as a headcount exercise, making sure I have the number of right number of people in each department or business unit within my organization. But there's another important aspect to workforce planning, and it's having the right skills and working with the business to understand what those skills and competencies are. Sales and marketing is no different, right? When we talk to sales executives, the role of a salesperson has changed from running their business out of the boot of their automobile to working now across divisions or SBUs to a team and a collaborative approach. So sales leaders are emerging who can work in a more collaborative way. But again, the onus is on HR to work with those respective business leaders, identify what the right skills and competencies are as proactively as possible, and then make sure that those respective executives have the right talent at the right spots in their organization.
I believe now that we're actually at the most exciting time that there has ever been for HR and for technology. We're at the point now, a true point of inflection again, I believe, that will be the thing that catapults HR, as we were talking about earlier on today, into the true strategic partner that it should be, and the true, I guess, leader of the people agenda within the organisation. And why do I say that? Well, I think there are three areas that really excite me and excite organisations around what HR and technology can now do. The first area for me, and this is an area that we mentioned earlier on today, was around the whole concept of big data and how much data there now is in the world, even compared to 10 and 20 years ago that there were on the internet. So being able to mine that information, being able to use that information to predict how your workforce is going to behave and what the opportunities are for you from a people perspective, I believe is revolutionary in terms of the value that HR can add.
Innovation in technology and how the HR is adopting that to their strategies and their operational strategies and execution strategies is extremely important. The right tools, the tools which you can scale to the future. If you have the, let's say, ERP, SAP, and you want to extend that to your workforce tomorrow, you need to form a right strategy around your core ERPs and extending that ERPs into HR. So right tools, global workforce is extremely important today. The global workforce, how do we communicate? How do we communicate with each other? It's extremely important. So you need employee satisfaction, employees retentions, planning, whom they work for is extremely important. So collaboration, how we can do it? Number three is we are all getting into mobility and cloud and all this good technology things. So innovation technology is absolutely moving at a rapid speed, and HR needs to make sure that your young talents are coming into the workforce. They're all going to use this technology.
The HR Leadership Conclave 2012 identified new opportunities, challenges and new mantras for tackling crisis. As companies across the globe deal with a temperamental economy, human resources now more than ever before is the most important asset for any company. Going forward, policies created to manage this resource could well be the defining factor for the success of a company.